Yes. Good stuff.
Awesome.
Joe, can you hear me okay on the mic?
I can hear you just fine. I'll just be in the background while you get started.
Fabulous. Okay. So you want to give me a minute, or just get rocking right off the bat?
Well, I think we should get rocking right off the bat. Hey everybody, my name is Joe Bladek. And
hey guys, I'm Andrew. That's Joe. He's going to be handling some of the mortgage and the financing aspect of the investment. He's actually more experienced than I am. He's got a few properties. I've had one property in the past, and my clients have gotten several different properties, which is why we do these things here. We're probably going to end up seeing more people come on, but I'm going to go ahead and start because I respect you guys' time. Thank you very much for coming on time. And I know sometimes it's hard to do on a webinar, so I'm going to get started. So I'm going to start my little presentation. I'm going to share my screen here. And as I keep going, a lot of your questions are probably going to be answered. However, when I finish, I'll give you a chance to ask me maybe a couple of questions. Then Joe is going to go, and then after that, we're going to have a full Q&A. You know, as long as we're going to be here, as long as you guys need us to be to answer some basic questions. And let's do share screen. There we are, and we're going to go view, present. There we are. Okay. So that is me. Very brief introduction. You guys see my information on the bottom left. I am a realtor, local realtor in the GTA. I work all over the GTA due to investors predominantly. A little bit about me up top. You know what you do. I'm very important, obviously. I'm with the big honchos there for Century 21. That's my little award. But just like Joe will when he does it, we are human beings. We do this business for a reason. We do it for our clients. Our clients can enjoy life and investment properties and some prosperity with their families. And that's because our families are our main whys as to why we do business. And you'll see at the bottom here, that's me and my wife at the TIFF Festival at a very good movie, by the way. I can't remember the name of it, but Woody Harrelson's in it. It's actually in the back there somewhere. And on the bottom right there is my son and I watching cartoons. That's the other thing that I love to do other than this. So guys, a little bit about me there. Rank My Agent, real satisfied. The only reason I put it on there, just so you guys don't think I'm just some random guy giving you information. I have some of my clients on there that give testimonies and a little bit of information about myself. More importantly, some of those folks are from some of our seminars, and that's very important there as well. So I'm going to move onward. And if you guys saw my video that I did, for those of you guys who registered, just as a thank you, is I mentioned the three things I'm covering. So here's what I'm going to be doing. Why invest in real estate? Very simple. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible because the key is to get you guys kind of thinking about it and nudging you forward into action versus overwhelming you with stats and stuff, which I find leads to analysis or paralysis by analysis, something you guys might be familiar with. So why invest in real estate? I'm going to use some basic numbers that are a little bit mind-blowing. You might not believe me, but then I'll back some of those up. And then, of course, I'm going to finish with what the market is doing, and Joe's going to cover the really heavy-duty, really good stuff. So first and foremost, why invest in real estate? Clear conflict of interest. I'm in real estate. I sell homes. I'm telling you to invest in real estate. Well, let me give you some information here. I'm going to minimize my little window. There we go. So I wanted to do this as simple as possible. So these numbers are going to be, not for the real estate, they're going to be pretty dead on. For the rest, they're going to be actually a little bit positive, a little bit optimistic, more so than normal. So watch this, guys. When you think about risk, as an example, in terms of investment, where do those people or those corporations or those groups, banks, investors, lenders are a good example, what do they think in terms of risk? Businesses, real estate, stocks, those kinds of things. So this is very simple, but it's actually quite accurate. I got this from somebody who's been doing this particular part of the business for a long time, especially business. So if you're going to get a business loan, as an example, and I'm being optimistic here, you want to get $100,000 loan from the bank. They'll probably need you to get pony up about 100 grand, give or take. It depends on the best sources I have gave me pretty much this. So I'm going to stay optimistic, and for reasons of simple math, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say you put in 100,000, the bank puts in 100,000, telling you how much they think of your business plan, and then you got a total of $200,000 to work with. That's a business situation. Shares, let's go to the right. You see over here on shares, say you got 100,000, you want to get a loan to be able to and get a little more bang for your buck, you want to have a little more buying ability in terms of shares and stocks and those kinds of things. Say the bank optimistically gives you a $100,000 loan on that. Now you're working with $200,000, only $100,000 of your own. Now, look at how the bank, the lenders look at real estate. Notice the difference here. I want you to, again, I'm keeping this as simple as possible, not so much that I think you guys need it simple. I need it simple. Here's how it works. You have $100,000. The bank will give you at least $400,000. Total funds to work with, $500,000. Now, right off the bat, you notice that the bank clearly thinks higher in terms of real estate, thinks higher of real estate than those other opportunities. Why? Because they're willing to give you more money. Clearly, it's less risky for them. And they don't like risk, as you probably well know. Let's go down the line. Business, right down the line here, you'll notice it's a full-time job. Restaurant, whatever. I know a lot of business people. Some of you might be business people. That's probably how you got your home, because you work hard, you have your own business. You know what it takes. It takes a lot of work. I'm self-employed, as is Joe. We work a lot, even during this time. A lot of hours put in for work. That's a business. Shares, but maybe some less work. A lot of research and those kinds of things. You get fees, annual, those kinds of things. What about real estate? What input does it require? Well, just the usuals. We're talking about investment properties, which means you don't have to be there very often. We'll talk a little bit about property management specifically. Well, it means that you actually don't show up very often at all. It's certainly not a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 10 hour a day job. Not even close. I know landlords that show up once a month, once every 2 or 3 months, just to kind of check in on things. What if I, as a person with some money, which is what is probably the case with most of you, what if I want to make $100,000 in 5 years as an investment? My example of the business, I need a 50% return, 10% annually. 5 years, 10%, you get to $100,000 in actual profit. Very simple math. I understand there's other things involved. Very simple. Shares, same thing, 50% return, 10% annually. That's going to make $100,000. So you need that's a high return. You want to make sure that that's good. Not all businesses do that, especially in the first few years of business. Shares, possibly. Look at real estate. All I actually need is a 20% return, which is only 4 to 5% annually, which is pretty much what the last 30 to 40 years of the Toronto Real Estate Board in terms of the real estate market, that's pretty much what the past 30 to 40 years have been. In fact, recently, honestly, it's way more than that. Way more than 4 to 5%. I've seen 7, 8, 9. And in the crazy time, which I'll explain to you just a little bit, we're looking at 20, 30% appreciation. Clearly not sustainable, but it's been there. So look at what the bank thinks of real estate. A lot less risky, clearly, by the way they're willing to give you money for it. It requires a lot less effort and time and input on your part once you actually have the property. And if you want to make money, say $100,000 in this case, it is the requirements on the real estate are clearly way less than business or shares. Half, actually. That's interesting. Next reason why you should invest in real estate. It's a very simple example. We'll go further into a little more detail. In light of that information I just showed, just here's an example. You buy property for $500,000. Your down payment is 20%. Say $100,000, mortgage of $400,000. Keeping it simple. You know, there's land transfer tax and those kind of things involved. You won't matter once you see the numbers. 5% annual appreciation, which is average. Actually, it's a little bit below the normal average. You're looking at 525 for 1 year. That's a return of 25% annually on the $100,000 that you put down. Very simple, very high. Another reason why you should invest in real estate. Have you noticed what's happening in prices? If you've been in the GTA for a while, as I have, look at what's been happening with the prices. You know, I don't know if you can see my little mouse on the screen. Back from 95 in this particular example, all the way up to where we are now. The yellow or the brown, there's the trend. The actual prices are the blue. You'll notice the spike in 2017. We're actually very close to that now. But notice the overall increase. You see a pattern developing? Little note, see the little squiggle, the red squiggle at the bottom there? That's 1995, about 200,000 or so, an average price. Keep that in mind. Just put it in your back pocket for now. We're going to get to that in just a second. So another example, this is the past, 3 years, 4 years. If you ignore the light blue color, that's 2017. Ignore it, only because it was a crazy year, and specifically a crazy first quarter. I'll explain in a second. But if you ignore that, just look at what from 16 to 2019 happened. Steady increase, steady increase, steady increase, steady increase. That's the norm in a volatile. For years and years and years, it's been pretty much the same thing. Why invest in real estate? There's another example. Here's some numbers, and definitely you don't want to look at 1973 because you will say, wow, new cars cost more than that. But let's look at the last three just to get you comfortable with what the market is doing, because believe me, I don't want to assume, but I get a lot of calls even now from people who are asking me what the market is doing. They're concerned. Look, this is where we're at. Look at 2015, my top arrow, average 622, 2016 average 729. Delete 2017 because it was a crazy year. Well, we even count it. We wouldn't count appreciation there. Look at 2018, 787, 187. Look at the increase from 16 to 18. 2019, by the way, we haven't got the full numbers, but they're even higher than that, quite a bit higher. Steady increase. I'll tell you why coming up in some of the numbers. There's one reason, GTA population growth. You guys have seen this. These are the forecasts for 2046, 10 million. It's going to be up and down. The COVID thing might slow things down a little bit. Well, possibly, yeah. It's still going to be well in the millions. Look at this. You think real estate value is going to go down? Government of Canada immigration mandates. You guys know how it is. Some of these numbers are back in 2018 and 19. Notice, of course, everyone loves the GTA. In 2019, of all the immigrants that came in, over 300,000, 44% chose Toronto, the GTA, as their home. For obvious reasons. Amazing opportunity, great place to live, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. COVID will slow that down maybe this year. Overall, absolutely not. What's going to happen to the real estate market with this many people coming in, all of whom need housing? Here's an interesting one for business. Office vacancy rate, record low, tightest office market in North America. Millions of square feet of office space is being built in Toronto, in the Toronto area. Why would anyone do that? Why would people do that? Because they're expecting to be vacant for a long time? No, absolutely not. It's going to be filled in with all kinds of businesses, all kinds of offices, and those kind of things that require a lot of staff. It'll have a ripple effect, as it always does, to the rest of the GTA, meaning that values are going to continue to go up. I'm trying to develop a pattern here so you guys feel comfortable in the GTA market, as I have been for years because I'm in it. Overall, why invest in real estate? Risk is a function of demand control and exit strategies. Some of you guys are much smarter investors than I am. You guys know way more about this than I do. But you know, this is the very simple basics of it. There has to be a demand for what you have. That way you have an exit strategy. Is there a demand for real estate in the GTA? Dumb question. Control. Do you have control over the value? Do you have, I was born in the Soviet Union. No control. Here in Canada, lots of control. You can sell. That's an exit strategy. You can do something. You can leverage. You can finance off it. You know where the home is. It's not moving anywhere. It doesn't disappear. It's not a piece of paper that you can lose in an office somewhere. No, this is legit place with an address and people in it. Exit strategies. You can sell. You can refinance. You can re-rent to new tenants. There's all kinds of things you can do with real estate, especially in a busy market like the GTA. What about possible tenant issues? And this has come up in the past. My wife has mentioned it, so believe me, I understand. How do you deal with possible tenant issues and that kind of thing? Are they real? Absolutely. Property management, proper property management, proper vetting of tenants is a big deal, but it's also a tax deduction. I highly recommend property management, especially if you start purchasing property outside of where you live. If you live in Scarborough, if you live in North York, and you're buying a investment property in London, I have several out there right now, not on the market, that are available through a company that I know. Well, you might want to get property management, and those have it. Insurance as well. There are actual insurances, specific ones that cover not only repairs and such, but even lost rent. Now, you have to look into that. We have some resources for that, but that is interesting, meaning that it minimizes your risk. Now, does it cost something? Absolutely, it costs money. Does it eat into your monthly? Let's look at some numbers. I'll give you 3 examples. These are not investors. I purposely use these people because they're not investors. They're simple people who bought a house. Without the intent of investment, I want to see the kind of numbers they had. And I didn't cherry pick. These are normal buyers at a lower price range. First is the example 1. First are first-time home buyers, okay? So we're looking at first-time home buyers. They bought a 4-bedroom townhome for about $340,000 in the west end of Toronto. I remember these guys back in 2017. The fall of 2017 when it was normal. Current value, about $470 to $480. So in 2 years, roughly, they've gained $130,000 to $140,000 in equity, plus whatever they took in mortgage principal. So it's probably in the 160s, 170s. Just regular people with that kind of equity. Now imagine if that was an investment property. Number 2, this is a great story. Joe knows about this one. Older woman, she works at Scarborough General Hospital. Shout out to all the healthcare workers, especially during this time. She works there by herself, finally bought a place. Her son co-signed with that one. Look at the value difference. Bought a condo in fall of 2015, under $200,000. Got her a great deal. Current value, $400 to $410. In 4 years, this woman by herself with one job gained $200,000 plus mortgage principal. So close to $250,000 of equity that she has after 4.5 years. Now, one woman with one salary at a hospital, you think she's going to save $250,000 in 4 years? How long do you think it'll take? I tell this to first-time home buyers all the time. I might even do it later today. The point being, that's how much equity is in those kinds of lower price things. Number 3, very similar example, condo for 263 in the fall of 2017, current value between 400 and 410. Equity gain in 2 years, about $140,000. Plus mortgage principal, so 160, 170. Imagine if that was a tenant and that was your investment property. That's how much equity you've gained in just those few years. And it's not super duper, again, these are normal people. We're not cherry picking specific kind of properties. I'll give you another example, number 4, not on here. This lady, client of mine, just recently sold. During the COVID thing, we took a low price because of the tight situation. We had 2 deals fall through on financing. It was tough. It was very tough for them. And they said, Andrew, we just want to sell. We sold at a price much lower than we wanted. Worst case scenario, they bought around 365, I think it was. We sold in around 560. That price. We're expecting closer to 600,000. It is what it is. You know why they're still okay with it? Between the equity they gained and what the mortgage principal they paid down, they're up over $200,000. Probably $230,000. Just normal people owning a place. Now, again, imagine there was an investment property that you owned and you still own. That's how much equity you have in it. You could take some out and purchase another one. So happy people. Why? Because there's a lot of equity, a lot of market gain. Why invest in real estate? Because real estate overall, I'm an immigrant. I am a Canadian citizen now, proudly so. But I came here with my parents. And part of the dream of being in North America, in US, in Canada, part of the dream is owning property, owning a house, having something of your own, especially when you're coming from a place like I did where you own nothing. Now you got something great. Real estate's part of the dream. It's one of the reasons it continues to appreciate. It's one of the reasons it continues to be a great business and a great place of investment. Basic numbers. Here's a $500,000 property. I'm going to go through this so you guys can see this. Notice I circled the $500,000. I just saw last night several properties. You guys could even be duplexes under $500,000 in the GTA. I saw them just last night. I was looking at the through MLS, and I have some exclusive network kind of stuff just that I have. Anyway, $500,000 after 1 year at 525. After 5 years, 638. So let's go 5 years. Difference between purchase price and new value. You have down here, you'll circle here with my mouse, 138. Add to that what you've been paying down your principal, assuming an IR of about 3.5%. It's actually a bit high, it's probably less than that, so you actually make more money. So you're at about $189,000 gain after 5 years. After putting down $100,000, this is the same example as the beginning. You put down $100,000, in 5 years you've gained $189,000. Now here's the thing, this is the GTA. What if the cash flow doesn't quite work out? What if a tenant leaves and you don't have one for a couple of months? What if blah, 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 blah. What if you're out $500 every single month? $500 every single month, every year is what? $6,000. You're out $6,000. You pay into the property $6,000. No cash flow. You think horrible investment, right? In 5 years, that $6,000 turns into $30,000. $30,000 of your own money that you paid into this property. But you made $189,000. Take away 30 or $159,000. Are you comfortable with $159,000? That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Think about that. Next time you think about cash flow and some of these kind of investment gurus and stuff, keep it really simple. Here's another example of a lower the price property, probably a condo or something of that nature. $350,000, 20% down is $70,000. You would invest in $70,000. Just keeping it simple. 5 years, that's your return, $132. 10 years, $299. 20 years, $770, 30 years, $1.5 million. Now that sounds crazy, right? No, there's no way that property is going to be $1.5 million. Let's get back to that in just a second. Here's something that I saw, and I've actually seen folks do this with clients, and this is really neat. You know the rule of 72, how long it takes for something to double at a specific growth. At 5% growth, which is very normal, very conservative, very normal, potential of making over $2 million in 15 years. 5% growth, prices double every 15 years. It's less than that, we're just going to round up to 15 years. You buy today for 500, with 500 financed, in 15 years it becomes $1 million with $300,000 debt. That's $700,000 of net worth. What if you do it 3 times? That's $2.1 million. People do this. I have associates that do this. I have colleagues that have done this kind of thing. Pretty amazing stuff. And this is not crazy. This isn't like best case scenario. This is like normal case scenario. Sometimes even less than normal case scenario. Side benefits, and Joe knows a lot more about this again because he's in the game doing this right now. Specifically, I was, and I'm getting into. This is ads, insurance, interest, office management, all this stuff, tax write-offs. There's a lot of tax write-offs here that a good accountant will get into. Salaries, property taxes, travel costs, utilities, all kinds of stuff that are tax write-offs for having an investment property. Pretty amazing stuff. So let me tell you what the market is doing. That way, now that I've shown you some pretty good reasons to invest in real estate. If nothing else, it's a thought in your mind now. I've shown you some of the very basic numbers. And let's look at what the market is doing currently. I'll go faster through the beginning part because I don't want to bore you with numbers. I just want to tell you something. The market is amazingly resilient, and the COVID thing happened at an amazing time. I'm not saying it was amazing. People have died. People I know have died from COVID. So I don't malign this thing. I don't take this thing lightly. However, the timing in terms of the housing market is a very interesting one. There's always two stories to anything. There's the exaggerated story, and there's what's actually happening. And those are two things I'm going to cover in the market. So 3 points really quickly to cover. I don't want to go too far over my time here. There are 20,000 active listings in the GTA would equal a balanced market. We rarely have that, usually in the summer. That includes about 4 to 6 months of inventory. Without boring you, what that means is, and you can forget these numbers after this presentation, trust me, it's not that important. I want you guys to get the idea. 20,000 active listings, balanced market. If you list nothing starting this second, it will take us 4 to 6 months to sell all the inventory that we have. That's what months of inventory means. 4 to 6, balanced market. Treb Realtors, us, sell between 90 to 100,000 homes annually on average. Some of those will include pre-construction. We won't find them on MLS, but the point is, it's very important to the city, the taxes, to the GTA for the homes to continue selling. That's got to keep going. There's a lot of money involved, a lot of business, a lot of people stay employed because of buying and selling homes, not just me. So Treb history, something very important. About 100 years of Toronto Real Estate Board history shows us that there are regular repeating market cycles. Every 20, 25 years, there is a bit of a cycle, a bit of a correction. It goes up and goes down. It gets overheated and comes down. It happened in the late 80s, early 90s. It happened in 2013 to 2017. So here's what happened. Starting 2013, the market started. The market started picking up a little bit. It became a seller's market, then a super seller's market. The whole point being, without boring you, from 15 to the first quarter of 2017, inventory can't keep up because people are just going nuts in purchasing. There's a high demand. There's always a high demand. There's only one thing that stops that demand, and I'll show you what that is in a second. Prices are going up. Supply and demand is imbalanced. Appreciation double digit heading into 2016. End of 2016 was nuts. And here's what happened. More and more negative press, more and more government scrutiny, market's more and more of a topic of conversation. You notice the market only comes up when something extreme is happening because we need you to keep your eyeballs on the screen, to click on ads, to click on advertisements, to click on newspaper articles, and to buy newspapers, those that still have physical newspapers to buy. The point is, that's how they get your business, by getting your attention. Negative gets attention, unfortunately. Market's more and more of a topic of conversation. It always is anyway. And fall of 2016, this new stress test comes in, all comes to a head of 2016. Watch this, guys. I really want you to get this part. Remember this? Not as much happening now. A month ago, 2 months ago, this was the real deal. Mine all mine, empty shelves, toilet paper. Was there a shortage in toilet paper? Never. Was there any particular reason to buy a bunch of toilet paper? What happened? Psychology. Watch how it affects the markets. I didn't know this until I got into real estate to this effect years ago. Proper response, wash your hands, turn off the news. Why? Because the news feeds a lot of the psychological aspects of these things. This is slightly exaggerated, but not completely. Watch this. In end of 2016, CMHC, which is the company that insures mortgages that are under 20% down payment, they checked over years, they kept tabs on the kind of things people are clicking on search engines. Specific things like bubble bursting, market crashing, anything really big about the market. You'll notice how the pattern is going from 2000 up to about 2015. A bit of a spike in 12, it's going across. End of 2016. Look at end of 2016. Exponential growth. Why? The media was in a frenzy. We had to keep talking about the market. It's going to crash. It's going to not crash. It's going to be unaffordable. Da, da, da. Constantly, people are just obsessed about the market. Look at that. Look at that impact there. Here's one example of things that are not being completely true, but it's a psychological effect. CMHC does a survey with buyers, and what they ask them is, what are the biggest influences on home prices in the GTA? What do you guys think is the biggest? First, foremost, buyers said city is attractive. Of course, that's a given. That's an easy one. Second thing, not land availability, not the population, not speculators. No, foreign investment. Why? You guys remember to end of 2016 and beginning of 2017 when people were talking about this investor stuff? Oh, the Chinese are buying everything. Look, that's what they thought. Over half of them thought it was the second biggest thing. Here's the reality. The blue is Vancouver. You can forget that, although that's still significantly low. Look at all on the right side here. 3.4%. 3.4% of transactions in the GTA were by foreign investors or foreign buyers, non-resident ownership. Now, mind you, some of these were buying it for a student, for a child that's a student in the area. Maybe they're here on a 2 or 3 year contract and they bought it, but they're not Canadian citizens. Could be a whole host of different reasons. The point is, it's such a minuscule number, but people thought it was the second biggest reason for the increase of housing prices. What does that mean? Psychology, not reality. Psychology, not reality. What happened in 2017? That psychology led to absolutely low inventory in 2017, the beginning. 4,000. Remember 20,000 normal? 4,000, very low. Even for January, extremely low, record low. Year ends are front loaded, incredible amount of sales in the first half of the year because people are just absolutely nuts, buyers and sellers. Start of April, the market began to naturally turn, and then, as is usual, the government gets involved because they have to look like they're doing something. And about towards the middle of April, they put in some new rules. Between the market naturally changing, the government stepping in when it probably didn't really need to, by June it was a balanced market. We went from crazy to June balanced in 3 months. What happened before in years took us 3 months. 3 month correction. By June, July, August, it was a normal market in 2017. That's what happened. 18, very normal. I don't want to bore you with too many of these numbers. So normal inventory, very normal, all normal. Word, optimal word, normal. What did you actually hear about 2018? What you heard is what you're hearing now. Huge drop in sales. Oh, sales drop, sales drop. They didn't even always mention sales. They just said drop in the market, making you think that maybe the prices dropped. It wasn't the case. 2017 had 92,000 sales. 18 had 77,000 sales. So that's a 15,000 difference. It gets people looking at articles, which is why they kept mentioning the huge drop. What was the reality? First quarter of 2017, way too many sales, 25,000, not normal. First quarter of 18 was normal, 50,000, that's a 10,000 difference. There's 10,000 right there. In fall of 2017 had the mortgage rule change. The reason I tell you this is not for you to remember. The reason I tell you this is that you guys understand there's reasons for why these things happen and not just crazy. Rules come in that take effect in the beginning of 2018. Now, if you're going to lose a lot of buying power by January 2018 and you're in the fall of 2017, what are you going to do? You're going to buy a house. A lot more people did that before they even initially planned to, just to get a bigger house and get more buying power and get more equity later. That's about an extra 5,000 sales, 5,000, 10,000. There's the difference. Nothing crazy about the market. It's an easily explainable situation. Again, psychology. 19, normal market. The summer was particularly busy, and it didn't stop being busy right into September, which caught a lot of sellers off guard. November and December were very, very busy. These are the numbers from November and December. Don't need to look at anything. The main things here, just notice the arrows are pointing upwards. More sales, more average price, more sales, more average price, and negative active listings and new listings. The point being a lot less available, a lot more buying, meaning that prices are going up and inventory is going down. This year started with low inventory, not as low as 2017, but low. And so everything was set up for a very, very busy spring market. You guys might have seen this if you paid attention. January, February, things are flying off the shelves. Over asking 20, 30 offers on a home at times. I was there. It happened. Second busiest spring market in decades. And then COVID. The COVID effect was very real. It's a horrible thing. Let's be honest. It's a pandemic. I know people in other countries have passed away, including this country. If I was going to time this at any time during the year to minimize damage on the housing market, and I had to time it, I would time it exactly when it came. Just as the market was absolutely nuts, the COVID comes in, and it's the only way, the only thing you can do to GTA demand for housing is to bring in a worldwide pandemic. That's the only thing that slows it down. And so we had low inventory, which usually means to very high prices, but you also lowered the demand due to the COVID response, properly so. So the market balanced itself naturally, well, if you can call pandemic natural. My own listing example, we were ready to roll in a listing just on the east side of town. The day we're supposed to have offers after having tons and tons of showings, the government announced that schools, daycares, etc., are closing. I didn't hear a peep, and I knew by 3 o'clock that day I wasn't going to get an offer. That's what happened with the market. Psychological effect, very real. The next day, 6 or 7 showings on that same property. Temporary. Again, psychological effect. Guys, don't always fall for it. Always make sure to look at what the actual numbers are. So that's my listing. I just sold it recently. It's the one I used as an example. They made over $200,000 in equity by doing, well, nothing, living in a house. Sellers now want to sell. I want to tell you guys this because honestly, there's an opportunity you have now. You see pockets of opportunity in my notes there. For the next little while, there's going to be pockets of opportunity. They have been that are not going to be there. Okay, I want you guys to understand that. It's not going to be always like, we know already the news that things are going to be opening up. Things are going to be opening up. And because of that, there's going to be more people out there. People are going to be a little more secure with their jobs, those who are working. And we know things are going to be slowly going back to normal, or the closest to normal we're going to get in the next little while. Sellers on the market right now want to sell. I keep sharing about stay home, save lives. You know what? You want to save a life? Buy a house. Because somebody out there wants to sell, they want to have some semblance of normalcy in their life for this year and the plans for the year and plans for their life. You buy their house at a fair market offer, they'll take it. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this. I want to get on with life. You're actually helping them out. I've seen it. I've done it. Pockets of opportunity right now, and they're going to continue. Watch this. You won't see this anywhere else, I guarantee you. First half and second half of March. These are showing stats. There are companies who do more than half of the showing stats or about half of the showing stats in all the GTA. I happen to have their information. Here are the showing stats, first half of March to second half of March. This is what happened in March. Down 66% showing. Down 77% final week of February versus final week of March. That's what happened in March. Everything slowed down to a grind. By the way, it would have been a great time to buy. I was telling people that. Not everyone listened. Offer registrations down 60% final week of March versus final week of February, down 75%. The point being, competition slashed to a minimum. If you're a buyer with money out there and are financially capable without the COVID situation affecting you, you could have helped out several sellers and you could have got a good property, maybe more than one. That's March. What about now, Andrew? April stats just came out yesterday morning. Sales down 67%. No surprise. But look at this. Watch this. Look at the average price. Even I was shocked at this. I thought it'd be down maybe 1%. Average price up 0.1%. The point being, it's negligible, nothing. A worldwide pandemic, home sales down 67% from the month April the year before. And what happens to the price? Nothing. What does it tell you about the GTA market? What does it tell you about investing in real estate? Active listings way down, new listings way down. That explains why the average price didn't go down, because inventory is low and demand is low only due to COVID. Now, guys, what do you think is going to happen first? Everyone's going to be listing their house on the market, or buyers and more and more buyers are going to start entering the market? More and more buyers. Because you notice the average days on market, PDOM, the one I circled there at minus 7.7, average days on market is actually lower April this year versus April last year. The point is, stuff is happening. Watch this. Again, stuff you won't see anywhere else. These are GTA showings and offers. The orange is showings. Showings on properties. February through March, probably middle of March. Pretty busy. You notice it starts going down in the beginning of March because COVID starts taking more and more in effect. By March 14th, in this area in here, this is when we already know. It's March break. We know the school's going to be closing. A lot of stuff is changing. And we hit the bottom at the end of March, March 21st, 22nd, 23rd. And then it became the norm. So that became the norm right until the beginning of April, where from the beginning of April last month to the end of last month, this happened. Notice a steady increase. The drops are on the weekend. I think they're all Sundays, by the way. Interesting. The point being, that's the trajectory. We already hit our bottom in terms of showings. People were showing, people were still selling, and now we're moving upwards. Where are we right now? We're towards the very end of this trajectory. And guess where it's going? Look at the pattern. It's going to keep going up. I know, because I got listings out there, and I noticed more showings, more people inquiring things on me. Look at last week. This is literally last week. Last week versus the week before that. Look at the showings increases, 19%. Offer registrations, 23%. New MLS listings hitting the market, 8%. New exclusive listings, which I have access to, you won't, 16% up. MLS and exclusive tells you this. People want to sell. They want to hit the market. They were just confused. Psychological effect. They weren't sure what was actually happening. They noticed things are still selling. And how do you know? Week over week, 4% increase in sales. Why am I telling you guys this? You have an opportunity window. Truth be told, it's the GTA. Any time is a good time to buy. I know that's corny. I know it's salesy. I apologize. The truth is, unless it's a special case, you can almost buy it pretty much any time. And over the long run, 5 years, you make a crap load of money, especially for investment property. Forgive the language. But what I'm telling you right now is it's increasing. It's not going to go down. There's no, unless they shut down more so than they have already, and guys, we shut down everything already up to this point. This is not going to change. It's going to go up. More showings. People are going to want to sell, hit the market again. The market's going to get healthier and healthier. Right now, we don't know if the market's going to go absolutely nuts as soon as more and more buyers get in and the demand skyrockets again and prices start to go up again, or buyer increases, sellers increase in volume and begin more and more of a normal market. Either way, there's going to be opportunity there. But right now, for the next month or so, there's some great opportunity. People on the market want to sell. You don't take advantage of them because, frankly, they don't have to. And I don't work with people like that anyway. However, you do have a chance in an amazing market to get something at a fair price. And actually, it sounds corny, you'll be able to actually help a seller out. So how are some folks paying off their home 10 years early? Some in half the time. How are some folks paying for their children's education in full? How are some folks building an additional 500,000 plus for their retirement? Answer in what I just talked about, purchasing an investment property. The next step, listen to what Joe has to say. If you guys have any questions, you can ask now. If there's anything specific, I'm going to go off the screen here, and Joe's going to start his spiel. Thanks for listening, guys. I really, really do appreciate it. I hope it was of value. I hope you guys got what I'm trying to push across here.
All right. Thanks very much, Andrew. And hi, everybody. My name is Joe Bladek, and I'm here today to share with you a little bit about what's happening with, let's see here. You share. Let's try this out. Maybe this works better. Okay, we'll stop that. Just trying to get my PowerPoint working here. But yeah, that was some great information from Andrew. We'll make sure that that we'll have question time at the end. And when we do questions at the end, we'll make sure that we answer all the questions at the end there, and we'll get to every single one. Let me just get back to my presentation here. Okay. Okay, great. So you guys are able to see that. Welcome to the First Time Home Investor Seminar. You guys have probably all bought your first home by now. So congratulations on that. And looking at, maybe you're on your second or third home, but you are now looking for an investment property. Maybe that may be for things like an extra income, or some equity building, or future, just being able to, in the future, have some equity to bank on, sort of like a pension fund. So anyway, a little bit about me and a little bit about our agenda today. Andrew spoke about all the real estate stats. Those were some really interesting stats, especially in the GTA there, how the offers and the listings and the showings are all related. And it was really interesting to see how in March it all dropped off, and how this is an interesting and a little bit of an opportunity. Like there's a little bit of an opportunity here to buy a rental property, which is really awesome. Anyway, I'll talk a little bit about myself, a little bit about how to qualify for a rental property mortgage. I'll talk a little bit about how to get connected with people that can help you with getting a rental property. Also talk about how to purchase a rental property without any money down. We'll learn about the BRRRR method, as well as how to legalize a second suite and why it's important to secure a mortgage pre-approval. And yes, you can get a mortgage pre-approval for a rental property. So a little bit about what I'm aiming that you will know after this webinar, and that is to how to purchase rental property, how to find good tenants, where to find your down payment for this rental property, as well as how to set up your rental portfolio, the BRRRR method. I am just noticing that I'm missing an R, and why use a mortgage broker versus a bank. Hopefully you'll walk away from this webinar today feeling a little bit more confident and knowing what your next step will be in buying that new investment property. This is my family there, my 2 kids and my lovely wife, Melissa. A little bit about my professional life. I've been in the financial industry now for about 11 years. I obtained my mortgage agent certificate in 2010, so I'll be celebrating 10 years this year. Been in the top 10% of mortgage brokers since 2015, and a little bit about why I became a mortgage broker. I became a mortgage broker because I love getting a deal for anything I'm buying. So I love passing that on to my clients. So when they're looking for a mortgage rate, I like to shop different lenders, different options, and see what the best deal is for the client. Also planning, trying to help you plan for your financial future, whether that is to have tons of passive income coming in from rental properties so you can quit your job in the future, or just to have a supplemented income from rental properties right now to your current employment income, or whether this is, say, for future planning, so you want to sell your properties or will them down to your kids or a trust, something like that, and choice. I love being able to show people and clients just there's different banks out there and different methods we can do that, because some banks, they don't like rental properties. Some banks do. Also, some banks give preferential treatment to rental income and some banks do not. So it's good to know a broker that knows all these ins and outs. A little bit of what I like to do. I love playing the drums, and I've played some drums at some different charity gigs in the past. So anyway, rental property number one. Let's dive in to one of the examples here. This one was purchased for $245,000 with a 20% down payment at the time for $49,000. This person had to go with a B lender at the time because they could not really qualify with a bank. And a B lender is simply a chartered Canadian financial lending institution that is regulated by the bank, just higher rates available to those that cannot qualify normally. So the interest rate was 5.19%, and in this case, the mortgage payment was $1,351. So people did the renovations themselves. In this case, the person was me, so that is me standing there beside a floor sander, which I recommend you do not do. It is much faster to hire that out. We did the renos ourselves anyway because we had a very, very slim budget for $20,000. We ended up putting in a whole basement apartment in this house. We converted this little kitchen into a nice kitchen, and we rented it out for $1,350 per month and essentially lived mortgage free. We purchased without any money from my pocket. And that's exactly what I would like to share with all of you today, is how that is possible. How do you buy a rental property without any money down from your own pocket? So where do you start? You know, you might be thinking, how do I get started with this? Well, the first thing is to get pre-approved. Speak to your mortgage broker. We can take all the guessing out of it, give you a clear idea of your max budget, what your rental income will be approximately in the area you're looking for, what your expenses will be based on your mortgage and property taxes and your utilities. And we can also show you what your profit will be each month. With that, getting your mortgage obtained and showing you what the payments will be, and knowing that you can confidently spend up to a certain amount for either a single family rental home, a duplex rental home, or like a triplex, fourplex. You will be able to see the numbers. You'll be able to avoid disappointment. Also, the sellers will take you a lot more seriously if Andrew, realtor, can communicate, hey, you know what? My client has a pre-approval for this amount of money, and he's already got totally checked out by all the banks. Speaking of banks, here are some of the lenders that we work with. One of the benefit of using a mortgage broker is there's no cost to use a mortgage broker to have the extra access to multiple lenders versus going to one lender. It also ends up saving you time and also saves you a little bit on your credit score, because as you go to each lender yourself, you'll get your credit score checked every time. Whereas if I send your application, pre-approval application to multiple lenders, I only have to check your credit score one time, which means your credit score is preserved with the credit hits on it. All right. So how do you get pre-approved? It actually usually starts with a text message. So here's an idea. Hey, it's Joe, and I'm looking to get pre-approved. Most mortgages these days, because of COVID-19, we're doing over the phone, via text, via FaceTime, Skype, Zoom calls, Google Hangouts, Snapchat, WhatsApp, whatever you need. We are actually not required to meet throughout the entire process, and you do not need to take any time off of work. However, if you do want to have a 2-hour Zoom call about all the intricacies about rental properties, we can arrange that. Okay, so what do you need for a mortgage pre-approval? To get started on your mortgage pre-approval, typically for buying a rental property, we will need a lot more documents than you would need to buy a home for like a first home or a second home if it's just for your own family. For example, we'll need an employment letter indicating your current employment. with COVID-19, a lot of lenders right now are making sure that people are working. And if you are laid off, lenders are making sure that if you are laid off, will your employer write you a letter saying that you are coming back to work? That is the key. We need photo ID, usually 2 years of notice of assessments, mortgage statement, property tax bill, and we'll need an idea of where your down payment is coming from. Next, after that, after you do get pre-approved, you get out there with Andrew and start shopping with a real estate agent. So he's very important. It doesn't cost anything to use Andrew as your buyer's agent because the seller ends up paying for that service. So it is included. All right, moving on. Here's rental property number 2, just to give you an idea of what else can be done. So this was actually my first property. I bought this for $232,000 when I was 23 years old. $11,600 total down payment with a $220,000 total mortgage. After 5 years of ownership and general improvements, I ended up refinancing this property so I could take out some equity. When we did a market value appraisal, we saw that the market value was $300,000. Mortgage was $280,000. If we pay off the old mortgage using the new mortgage, we're left with $79,000 in equity. The equity in this case was used to pay off the current debts, which was some credit card debt. Then down payment was the next part, and that was to the property that I showed you, property number 1. So in this case, essentially what happened was I bought my first property, but then my second property, which I ended up buying, I got the down payment for my first property. And I remember my wife and I looked at each other at the end of the day and we're like, wow, that was pretty easy. And what was really great is at the time we ended up working with a mortgage broker for that purchase. I ended up going to the bank for my first mortgage, which was a total mistake. Looking back at it now, I like to use this analogy. Why do Canadians use mortgage brokers? And that is to find mortgages that fit. In this case, we're able to find you a mortgage that fits your lifestyle, fits your financial goals, and fits your financial future. I'm a pretty tall guy, so when I walk into a store, I like to make sure that the shirt is going to fit me, not only this way, but also lengthwise and this way as well, like widthwise. And if I walk into a store, I'm usually ending up like the guy on the left or the guy on the right. I need to walk into a specialized tall store where they have tall sizes. So I like to make sure that mortgages are tailored to you. We talked a little bit about this already. Why do Canadians use brokers? Access to more rental products, protecting your credit score, as well as some buyers do have a unique story. For example, if you're looking to buy a rental property, the bank's going to make sure that they take a good look at your credit history to make sure that you're able to pay your bills on time. In this case, they'll take an extra look. So if you have a missed payment to a cell phone bill or a credit card from 1 or 2 years ago, and you will walk into a bank, the bank's probably going to decline that right away. But if you visit a mortgage broker, we can take that information into consideration, put a story together around it. Perhaps there was a death in the family. Perhaps there was a breakup. We can assign a reason to what happened there for the missed payment. It's also good to make sure that you look at what penalty calculations are available with other lenders to make sure that we're going with the right lender in case you do need to sell your rental property. If you do need to sell your rental property and you are worried about large penalties, there is a way to get a mortgage that has a 3-month interest penalty only. Talk to me about that after the webinar. All right, so don't forget to set up your home buying team in this process as well. You've spoken with your mortgage broker, you've spoken with your real estate agent. Andrew mentioned a property manager. Also very important, there's huge benefits to having a property manager. Also, you want to be able to get a good home inspector and an insurance broker as well, and a real estate lawyer. So in the interest of time, I'll just move on here. Rental property number 2, this was a duplex, purchased with 20% down. We added some renovations to that mortgage using what is called a purchase plus improvements program. So the total mortgage was $225,400, mortgage payment $970.96. Okay. Rental income at that time was $2,800. And after the property is improved, we get a total market value of $450, which is pretty fantastic. Down the line, you can look at other down payment strategies. You know, you can access a line of credit for a buying a rental property. You can refinance your current home to buy a rental property. You can also get gifted equity from the seller, money from family, personal loans, and also a home equity loan on your current place. Okay. Moving on here, rental property number 3, bungalow, purchase price $280, down payment 20%, $224 mortgage amount, $10,000 renovations from savings, mortgage payment $1,048, $2,600 in rental income, and improved value ended up being $360. So as you see, a lot of these examples show you buying rental property at a low price, putting improvements into that rental property, and then the market value goes up. So how does the BRRRR method work? Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. So let's look at buy. You find a suitable rental property, which Andrew can help with, and buy it, which I can help with the financing. Then renovate. Perform renovations that will increase the property's value. And this will be things such as adding a second unit, painting, updated the bathroom or kitchen, replacing the roof, putting in a new furnace. All these things will specifically increase the value of that rental property. Then you rent that rental property. You first sign the lease, collect first and last month's rent, and provide the keys. You can actually use a property manager to find the tenants. And a lot of the times, a property manager will typically charge a 1-month rent fee for that service. And then you can manage the tenant on your own afterwards that. Refinance. Now that your property is rented and is beautiful, you can actually refinance with the bank and increase that mortgage to be able to pay off your current rental property mortgage and take out extra equity to get Andrew to buy you your next rental property. As you see, that's the repeat part. So you may have some questions about that. That was a very, very, very summarized version of all that in a few minutes. In interest of time, I want to keep this moving along so we can get to the questions at the end. So legalizing a second suite. What is a second suite? Usually a basement apartment, an apartment over a garage, or an apartment above the main area of the home. So legalizing a second suite, what is involved? Step 1 would be the zoning. You want to make sure that the city that is going to you're going to have your rental property in is going to allow that specific area to have a second unit. This is things like secondary units, accessory dwellings, duplex dwellings, dwelling units, multiple dwellings. You want to make sure that it has a permitted use. Step 3, check parking. You want to make sure that you're going to have enough parking for your tenants. There's a lot of reasons for this, and that is because the city doesn't want cars parked on the lawn or on the street. So sometimes you are required to widen your driveway or lengthen your driveway. So this is good to know, and Andrew can help you find a suitable property for this purpose. Ceiling height is also important. Because I'm 6'7", it's really hard for me to fit in basements. And I think they actually put in this requirement for me. But if they didn't, there's a lot of other tall people out there too that could benefit from that. That was supposed to be a joke. Step 5 would be to make sure that the basement suite has the appropriate legal exits. This could be things like windows or an additional walkout of some sort. Legalizing a second suite, you also have to make sure that the room sizes are adequate and that there is a separate bathroom and that the unit has access to laundry facilities. Natural light's also very important for second suites. If you have a basement apartment, you want to make sure there's enough natural light coming into that basement apartment. And there's actually a minimum required, so it's also good to make sure you check into that as well. It's important to make sure that you have good fire and sound insulation. That way you can make sure that the tenants between the two units are not going to have any, I guess, any noise complaints to you, the landlord, which I have had before. It's really annoying handling those complaints. So you want to make sure that it's as soundproof as you can afford with your budget. And then you want to make sure that you include smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. They are included, they are required by law. And I like to make sure I go overboard on this and to make sure that they're set up at least in the minimum way. So those are the 10 steps that cover off legalizing a second suite. Also very quick, just in the interest of time, I want to keep this moving along. So I'll keep moving on, and please contact me after this program to get a personalized appointment where we can actually sit down together over the phone or on a video chat and take a look at your financial situation and see, based on where you are at with your current equity, how much home you can afford as your rental property. Speaking of affording, banks have different rental offset calculators, and these calculators help you afford a rental property because the bank will not only look at your current income, but they will also take into account your future income from rental income to help you qualify for the mortgage. So in this case, this is one of the rental calculators we use here. All right. Another one there. And another one there. So as a mortgage broker, these are just some of the different rental calculators available, and there's many more. So there's different rental property programs with every lender. So you want to make sure that you speak to a mortgage broker like myself who knows every one of them available and can match up the one that will use the most rental income for you, give you the maximum mortgage at the best interest rate, the lowest penalty, and all that other jazz. I know this has been a webinar with a lot of information, but I want to stress this first, is that to get pre-approved first. Most of our mortgages are done over text, and you can start the process that way. My name is Joe Bladek, and I'm actually based out of Barrie, Ontario, with my office located in downtown Barrie. And I've been working with Andrew for a number of years. And during this time I've known Andrew, we've done a lot of rental properties together, spoken a lot about different scenarios, and we'd be happy to get you started. So now what I'll do is I'll pass it off back to you guys. We can start the question session as well. Andrew, if you want to pop on back on the line now, and we can make sure that—
Come on.
Great. Answer everyone's question here. So what I'll do is I'll stop the share. Great.
Okay. I know there was one question already, Joe, somebody already asked previously. Sarah, she asked about pre-construction and let's see, provide more information about pre-construction properties. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a per case basis. I will tell you this, literally just yesterday, I spoke to a gentleman who is in charge of the marketing aspect of not only Menkes, but a few other builders. They have several projects going on right now in Toronto. And just about a month ago, I was at a very interesting meeting with another Cornerstone Marketing, which handle a lot of other projects for major builders in downtown Toronto. So while things have slowed down a little bit for pre-construction because of the COVID situation, they're expecting this year to have tons of units. This is going to be one of the busiest years on record to have units enter the market. That's going to slow down a little bit, but overall, in terms of pre-construction, yes, I have access to a bunch of different ones. If you're looking for a bargain, so to speak, and I say that because I've had investors contact me in the past month or two looking for, a sub 1,000 square feet downtown Toronto, those kind of things. But the reality is prices are going up quite a bit. I know units in Yorkville, as an example, that are like the 1,700 to 1,800 plus per square foot. So not exactly Manhattan, but we're getting there. The point being, in terms of pre-construction, as long as you get a good deal in a good location, with all the amenities, CTC and those kinds of things, it is going to be appreciating. It's going to be appreciating quite well, as condos have been. In fact, this month specifically, because of the COVID thing, was the first one that appreciation in condos hasn't gone up quite a bit. I mean, overall, condos were winning the whole time. When the market drops in 2017, condos specifically were moving up quite a bit. Pre-construction detached, a little bit different. In this market, anything high end, we're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 million, that's been affected, and because those things tend to move slow anyway. But overall, pre-construction, definitely a good option, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about that, specifically about projects you might be interested in. Good option, though.
All right, that's a great answer. Yes. Okay, I'm just looking at the other questions here. Let's see. Gifted equity from the seller. Thanks, iPhone. So I can definitely help you with this. In this situation, for example, you can have, let's use this example. A grandmother is selling to you. It usually is a family related transaction in this case. So say grandma's selling to you, she can sell you the property for $500,000, and if it's valued at $600,000, then she can gift you that difference in equity of $100,000, and the bank will actually use that as your down payment. So in that case, what happens is that there's no down payment required, and you just have to pay for legal fees. In the case where it's excellent. It's excellent. So as long as it's 5% down for a principal home, or if it's 20% down for a rental home. So in the case where if it's a non-family member, we can do something similar, but it has to be 20% down. And in that case, we do it with an alternative lender. So in that case, we won't have an interest rate of like 2.5%, but if you are able to find a property that is priced under its realistic market value, you are able to use the market value and the price you pay for it and the difference in that as your down payment with some lenders in the alternative space. And we can look at that on a case-by-case basis. So it's a good idea. Yeah, it's a good question. I hope that makes sense there. Okay, from Serva. So thank you very much for your question. Refinancing a rental property. How long after purchasing a rental property can you refinance? Great question. Yeah, super great question. Because to do the BRRRR method, you need to make sure that you're doing this as quick as possible and just as often as possible to make sure you succeed at that. So a lot of lenders have a 1-year rule to do that. So say if you take a mortgage for 5 years or more, or even 1 year, a lot of lenders will make you wait the full 12 months before refinancing. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, and they are not with every lender, but a few exceptions I can note is A, have you done any significant renovations to the property? And if you're following the BRRRR method, chances are you've probably put in a new kitchen, some newer flooring, painted the entire home, or at least few of the rental units, maybe put on a new roof, installed a new furnace, and really got that property value up quickly. In that case, the mortgage broker, myself, can make sure that the lender understands all the improvements specifically, and we will show them also evidence of your original purchase versus your new purchase, and the bank will do an appraisal to verify that. And in that case, you can actually refinance as soon as your project is completed. Yeah, so great question, Serva. And yeah, but not all banks will follow that. So are there any other questions available right now? I'm just trying to look through here. Okay, Cheryl says, thanks, lots to consider. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. A lot of this information is to, first of all, consider, is get you guys to actually think about this idea as a whole. You know, so you walk away not going, whatever, that was an hour spent listening to something, but more like, okay, now I can see why people are in real estate. Or better yet, I wonder if I could do this with the property that I'm in. In fact, Joe's already mentioned, that's kind of the next step. And again, not just even sound pushy, but what I would do after hearing this is I would definitely, the next step would be speaking to Joe and just find out, even just roughly, where are you in terms of your financing and what can you get? And what if you find out that you're actually in a position where you can very easily, with no extra hardship, get an investment property? And again, a burn method, do things as fast as possible. But at the same time, even if you go with a lender that only gives you have to wait a whole year to refinance, that's fine. You get a year of equity, year of learning what property management is like, how to use a good property manager. It's a nice learning curve. And at the same time, as you're seeing with the numbers, the appreciation is going to be there, the activity there. And something I've told investors regularly, the exit strategy is amazing. Worst comes to worst, clear cut, sell, done. You probably still make a few $1,000s, which is what I've found in the past. And then you start over, try again, whatever. It's the amazing part how easy it is with all the exit strategies and the minimal risk involved, only because we're in the GTA. If this was somewhere else, maybe it's like a different conversation. In the GTA, very different.
All right. Great. Thanks, Andrew. And thanks for that question. So we have another question from, I guess, a follow-up question from Serva. She's asking now, please provide more information on the requirements for getting a mortgage for a rental property. For example, how will the stress test affect your ability to purchase your rental property? Do you need 20% down? So to buy a rental property, let's start from the top here. Actually, I'll answer the question about the 20% down. And yes, you do need 20% down. And the way most people get that is they take that out of the equity that they have in their existing home. And if you have, if you've owned your home for a few years by this point, you will have the equity available to take out to move into that first rental property. So it ends up being pretty easy to get the 20% down that way, because the equities in Toronto and GTA and Durham have just gone tremendously high. So with getting the mortgage, the stress test does apply. However, for example, if you have a income of $80,000 combined family income, you can't afford to buy a rental property based on that income alone, because you're going to be able to qualify for your property, and the rental income will help you qualify for the new property. So for example, if you're buying a duplex, you are expecting to probably be receiving, and Andrew, you could probably help me with this. I'm guessing if you're buying a 2-unit property, you could probably get between $3,000 to $4,000 in rent per month, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, we put your information into those rental calculators we covered in the presentation, and we show the bank, hey, look, based on all that information, this rental property washes itself out, so we don't need to count that. So in that sense, it helps you qualify for that property. And we have another question coming in from iPhone. Does your employment—
Good question, iPhone.
Yeah. Does your employment income play a big role in being able to qualify for a rental property? And yes, it does, because the bank will want to make sure that you can still qualify for your own mortgage and your own debts aside from the rental property. So they will check into things like, are you currently employed? Are you returning back to work after COVID is done? Are you working from home? Are you on reduced hours? They're going to ask me all these questions, and it's my job to understand where you're coming from, Mr. iPhone or Mrs. iPhone, as to, you know, do you have work right now? What is your income like? Is it self-employed? Is it employed? Is it commission? Is it a business income? And we can put that together and show the bank.
Mm.
Yeah.
Joe, I want to follow up question to what Servo was talking about purchasing a property. On average, I know it hovers. What's the loan to value on a property that they currently own? Say they have a home that's worth $500,000. They have a $200,000 mortgage left. How much money could they get for something like that in terms of down payment for a property?
Do you mind just repeating that? It cut out.
Oh, no problem. Sorry. No, as an example, because I know folks ask this, it's a very simple thing. Like, say if I have a $500,000 home, it's worth $500,000. My mortgage on it is $200,000, which means I have $300,000 in equity. On an average loan to value, in order to get a down payment, buy a purchase property and get going, what's the percentage? How much can I get out of a property like that, as an example?
Yeah, it's a great question, Andrew. So if you own a property that's worth $500,000, the most the bank will allow you to go is 80% of that market value. It's a great question. So in this case, in your example, person owns a $500,000 property. If it's $500, we're talking probably 100 years ago. So the most we could get a mortgage on that home would be $400,000. So that would be essentially the new max mortgage. And then we would put that mortgage down, set it all up, get a good rate, say 2.7, 2.1%, whatever the rate is, and we'll take out and pay off the old mortgage of you said 200,000.
Yeah.
And then that person will have $200,000 available. And what we can do is we can actually set that up into either a line of credit. So it's just sitting there waiting until you're ready to make your move and you're not paying any interest on that. Or we can set it up as you get the money up front and you're ready to go shopping for that home. And you can say to the buyers, you know, I got cash in the bank. It's ready to go. I just refinanced my home. I'm ready to buy the rental property. I got it all done. A lot of times sellers can be worried about that because they want to make sure that you have gone through that process. It just makes them feel a lot more comfortable.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Joe. I just had a case where twice financing fell through on a listing that I had because the folks were not ready financially, were not capable financially. If a buyer came at that time saying, absolutely, it's cash, we've got the 20% plus down, my seller will be, okay, well, now let's entertain some good offers because they're definitely going to listen to you. Great idea.
Right. So there's another questions coming in from Lance Richards. Thank you very much. Down payment.
Thanks, Lance.
If down payment is an issue, how can you get into a position to get a mortgage? You can actually partner up with another investor. And a lot of times I've seen investors partner up with other people that don't have the knowledge, but have the resources. So say, Lance, if you have come to a webinar like this and you've done research and you've done what needs to, like all the stuff about zoning requirements and how to legalize a second suite, and you know exactly how the whole process works and can help the investor find tenants, then you can actually partner up with someone who's really busy but has the means and the resources to put the down payment on the property. And then you come with the knowledge and the expertise, and they come with the resources. And then you essentially partner up to own 50% in that property. The silent partner, essentially the person with the resources, goes off and does their own thing while you then renovate the property, get it set up, put the tenants in there, and then you refinance that property. And then when you refinance that property, the investor gets their portion back first, and then everything else gets split 50-50, including the rent and the ownership. So down the line, you can own multiple rental properties with a joint venture agreement and not have put any money into the property. And I've seen this happen with people that I've done the mortgages for over and over again. So I can help you with that if you're looking to get into something like that. So great question, Lance. It's probably a little bit, I could get into that whole gambit of information. So maybe we can set a time to chat after as well. Do you have a property to own a rental unit? I think what you're asking is, do you have to own a property to buy a rental unit? And you can actually buy your first home as a rental home if you want. You'll be able to use some of your first time buyer benefits that way as well. So it's an interesting suggestion. So you mentioned so we have another question here. Thank you, Cheryl. You mentioned self-employment. Does this have a bearing on your qualification? Is it considered different from regular employment income? And yes, it does have a bearing. And there are banks out there. It's a great question, actually. There are banks out there that will only use, because if you're self-employed, you have your gross income from all your income is. Then you have your deductions, and then you have your net income, the income you pay the taxes on for your income tax. So there are banks that will use only the net income, and that can be a very small number, and it can prevent you from owning rental properties down the line. There are some banks that will allow me to increase that rental income, that self-employment income, by a little bit, or at least add back some of your deductions, which will help. But there are also some banks that specialize with self-employed clients, and they will allow me to use what you tell me you're earning. So that can be, say, the gross income minus a few expenses, and then we use that amount. So for example, if your gross amount can be 100,000, but your net income for taxes is 30,000, then we can use probably something around the 90,000 range with a alternative lender, 30,000 with a bank, or maybe 50,000 with some banks allow me to include some of the expenses back in there. It's really a case-by-case situation, so I would love to set up a time with you to talk about that later. And everyone that is part of this webinar will receive an email afterwards from me, just asking if you want to talk about this further and get pre-approved for a rental property mortgage. Great question. Okay, so another question, and Andrew, maybe you can help us with this one as well. Follow up to refinancing question. Thank you, Serva. If you are planning on using the BRRRR method, would you recommend getting a mortgage with a shorter term in order to avoid penalties?
That's a good question.
So, Andrew, I don't know how long it will take to sell a home, but usually what investors do is they will not take a fixed rate mortgage on a rental property. And this is to make sure that they have the least amount of penalty if the right offer comes along for them to sell, or if they have to sell because of financial distress, say all tenants have moved out or no one's paying their rent and you just want to get out, that way it's only 3 months interest. At any time. If you do take out a rental property mortgage for say less than the 5 years, chances are you will not get as good of an interest rate. Typically the banks look for the best rates for rental properties on the 5-year mortgage, but you can take out a shorter term. And say if you are doing the BRRRR method, in this case, it is really important to know your project and what the schedule will be like for your project. Because if your project is going to be, say, aggressively scheduled at 6 months, there is a 6-month mortgage available. But it's a higher interest rate. Say if you're getting 2.1 at Scotiabank today, you will get say 4.1 on a 6-month mortgage because the bank knows that you're probably just going to pay that out, and it costs them a lot to set it up and pay it out within the 6-month time. It almost doesn't make it worth it if they're giving you 2.1%. That's why the rate is higher. So you have to kind of make sure your schedule is correct and how realistic it is, and we can time all that. But most people take a 3-month interest penalty mortgage, which is the variable rate mortgage, and they just break it whenever the project is finished and refinanced because they don't have to time it. It's a low rate, something like 2.4 right now or 2.3. And it ends up working better that way, especially if you own the property for more than 6 to 7 months. Anyway, that was a lot of information. Thank you, Serva, for that question. And
Joe, it can't be overstated the importance. Honestly, when you're working with investment properties, the importance of sitting down with Joe in the beginning and really making a plan. Like, are you in the plan of doing this once, twice, 3, 4 times? Are you looking to just do it once, kind of like, and then have it for 5 years and then sell it and pay off, a debt, or maybe have more for retirement, whatever it is. Everybody has their own plans. When you know the plans in advance, what Joe can do is set you up with the right lenders. Certain lenders like a certain amount of investment properties, and that's it. Certain much more. I'm self-employed. Joe hooked me up with a pre-approval a while back, specifically because of the kind of lender that he used. It helps me as a self-employed person. So the key is to not only having a plan, but giving that plan to somebody who can then plan accordingly with the specific proper lenders. You go with this lender this long, this lender this long, and you minimize expenses, minimize penalties in terms of switching financing and that kind of thing. Again, just knowing in advance, sitting down with Joe and making the plan will save you tons of money, and you'll be a lot less it'll be a lot less stressful of a process because you have it already pre-planned. It's a biggie. It can't be overstated. That's why I kind of mentioned it.
All right. Thanks very much, Andrew. Great. And we're getting more questions in here now, so this is really good to see. So great. Thank you very much, Stargirl, for the great comment. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that feedback. It's very helpful. Also, another question from iPhone. To qualify for the mortgage, do you need to be in your job for a certain time frame?
Yes.
Would you be able to qualify if you started a newer job, however, in the same field of your employment? Example, healthcare. Great question. All right. So iPhone. In this case, yes, there is a certain amount of time you need to be in your field and in that job. In your case, though, if that new job or new career, well, in this case, would be a new job in the same sort of field, if it's an improvement and also higher income, more hours, that sort of thing, if going from maybe contract to full-time or from full-time to full-time or from part-time to full-time, then the bank will actually see that as a benefit. And quite often there'll be no problems with your approval because we'll just be able to see like, oh yeah, iPhone went from this employer and moved to this employer, and he got salary went up 10,000 or whatever it is, the hourly rate went up a couple bucks an hour. So that's actually a good thing. The important thing is it's really important to make sure you're not on probation. And if you are, we can still get the mortgage done, but it'll be on a case-by-case basis. For anyone that is on contract, say you've gone into a contract position, then we need to talk about that on a case-by-case basis because the bank's going to have a lot of questions for us. And it depends what industry you're in. In this case, if it's healthcare, they want to see like how long you've been in that whole field and what your annual income was from the last few years. But yeah, we can do it with your situation, iPhone, where you've moved to a new job in the same field. And even if you're in that job for a month or two, that is fine most times. Okay, great question. Serva, thanks for the feedback. Cheryl.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thanks for the feedback there, Cheryl. Great feedback. Yeah, working with a broker. No cost to work with either of us. Andrew and I are booking appointments. If you're looking to get pre-approved for a mortgage or just to see where you are with a how much you can afford with the mortgage, please reach out to me after this meeting and we can spend an hour just to kind of see where you're at. No what do they call it? No obligation. We'll just see where you're at. And if you want to go on your merry way and use your own bank, that is fine too. But it's my hope that you will connect with me for a pre-approval. I hope to be able to beat any rates that your bank can beat for you. Andrew as well, he's going to be booking appointments to help you look at some houses during this COVID-19 crisis. He has a way to get you looking at the houses and then help you get offers on these properties without having to meet. So that's really great too if you've already been pre-approved. Andrew, let's kind of chat about what we have available for appointments. I have evening appointments available this week if you're looking for that on Wednesday. And I also have appointments available during the day if you are available during the day. And you'll get an appointment link emailed to you after this webinar. And Andrew, what are you doing for appointments?
This week I have Friday afternoon fairly available. I have kind of a few things going on today and tomorrow. But next week, thanks to COVID, my afternoons are fairly open. So I'm trying to be more flexible right now because I know like a lot of my clients, their schedule's all over the place. If they're in a field that is currently essential, it's on a shift work or that kind of thing. But yeah, I try to keep open. I try to keep open early afternoons because Zoom is so wonderful. I'm able to connect with folks sometimes even in the mornings. It depends. Some people have kids. It makes things more difficult in the morning. I do try to stay flexible. Next week, I'm fairly open. Early afternoons and late mornings are really good for me.
All right. Sounds great. Well, I'm going to check here one last time to see if we have any questions on YouTube and our other live streaming sites here before we close it off. And if anyone else...
Joe,
yes.
Can I ask a question? Only because I thought it was cool. I'm a simple guy. Joe, you taught me this a little while back.
Right.
If 20% down sounds like an issue, I mean, clearly you guys probably have a lot of equity. Joe, you mentioned that if you're looking to only purchase one property, at least for the near future as an investment, you said that you can actually use your current property as an investment property and buy the next at 5% down. Is that kind of accurate?
Yes. And you know what? I didn't cover that in this webinar, which is actually a very good idea. Yes. Thank you, Andrew. So for those of you who are still on the call, great point, which I totally forgot to add to this webinar. So if you want to move up to a bigger home yourself and you have a home where it could be easily rented out because say it's a townhome or it's a condo or it's in an area with good rental potential, then Andrew can help you look at what rent you could get for that property. And maybe he and I could help you with, is that property that you own able to be turned into a 2-unit property? And then he can help you find a new property for your family, a bigger, more appropriate property. And that way you can actually buy that property for your family using the income from not only your employment or self-employment, but also the property that you're converting into a rental property. So it allows you to afford a bigger property for yourself and your family by essentially turning your existing property that you live in with your family right now into a rental property. And you can do that all with 5% down.
That's a biggie.
Because you can do that with 5% down simply because you're moving into the property you're buying. It's not considered a rental property, the one that you're buying. And that's one way to get around this 20% down rule. Great question, Andrew. I'll make sure to include this one on our future webinars because that is something that is used a lot, but not many people use that strategy. All right, so we have another question from iPhone now. I do have a second home that was delayed with closing due to COVID. Would you recommend refinancing the first home to close on the second home and then use the money that I saved to purchase a third property? Let me think about that for a sec, because that is
that's a lot.
A question has a lot of meat around it I need to consider here. So I'm going to read it a second time here. So I have a second home that was delayed because the new builds do get delayed quite often, 1, 2, sometimes
especially
2
now.
years. Yeah, especially now. Builders are running out of money. So anyway,
and workers.
And workers, yes. Closing due to COVID. Well, recommending financing right now, I'm recommending that to most people because right now rates have been on a downward trend and chances are you have an interest rate that could be a lot higher than what is out there now anyway. So you might just save by refinancing today, even if you don't really change your mortgage or buy a rental property. And first you do the first home, close on the second home, and then use that money to purchase. So with that all depends because you don't want to mess up. See, the thing I'm thinking about here, iPhone, is you don't want to mess up your qualifying for your new build. So
that's a biggie.
Yeah. In this case, it would take a mortgage broker a few hours to make sure that that would all work out. But it is very, very important that if you are to buy a second home between now and your new build, that you don't mess up the qualifying for your new build. And I've done some stuff like this before with investors who use new builds for rental properties or whatever. But in this case, we would have to look at it on a case-by-case situation and kind of look at where you're at. Because if the numbers are tight after the second home, you could disqualify yourself from the pre-approval you have on the new build. So we need to make sure all that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't able to answer your question there directly, iPhone, but we'll make sure that if you do reach out, I'll make sure I look at it for you, no obligation. Cheryl says, wow. Yes, it is wow. So current rates for refinancing, Serva. So for refinancing, rates are a lot lower right now. I'll provide you with some general idea because it will really depend on your credit score, the type of income you have, and as well as the amount of equity in your home, okay? So say if you're switching your mortgage to a new lender, then if you're not taking out any additional equity today, but you just want to get a good rate for now, you want to go out with Andrew, you want to look at some properties, and you want to sort of stew on this for a couple months, then you can switch your mortgage to a 2.1% variable or 2.29% fixed right now. Pretty fantastic. Now, if you're looking to refinance and take that money out and buy a rental property, and you're ready to do that, then the rate's a little bit higher because the banks are charging a little bit more if you're taking the money out right now because of COVID. But those rates are anywhere between 2.49 to 2.99. So still very low rates. And I gave you the range because all the different banks I work with, and you may not want one particular bank or another, or it may not fit, right? But those are the rates right now. And that's for fixed rates and variable rates. All right. Great question, Serva. And iPhone, thank you very much for the feedback there. And great question, Andrew. So yes, you can buy with 5% down and turn your existing property into a rental property. And you can actually keep doing that if your family or yourself is okay with moving each time. So you buy your first home, then you move up to your second home, turn your first home into a rental. Then you move up to your next home and turn that house into a rental. You move up to your next home, you turn that house into a rental.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have any further questions here? Okay. Nice. Awesome. So there's no other questions on YouTube either. So if there's no other questions here, please do reach out to Andrew, real estate agent. He specializes in getting you a place in the GTA, Toronto, Durham, Pickering, Oshawa, even up to, I think you go out to Bowmanville as well, Hamilton, if you really.
Yeah, I've been out east. Have some folks out there, north, west. Because of investors, I've had to get around the GTA. So
yeah.
for better or for worse, I know a lot of areas.
And myself, even though I'm based on Barrie, I've done mortgages down to Windsor and all the way up to Ottawa. And I've done mortgages all the way up to Thunder Bay. Important thing is we can do it all over text, all virtually, and you don't even have to take time off of work, or in this case, time off your couch and come see me in my office. So that's pretty fantastic as well.
Amen.
All right, guys. Well, last chance for questions.
Going.
All right, great stuff. Well, Andrew and everybody, it's been great. Thanks very much for coming out today.
Thank you, guys and gals. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Don't forget to.
Hope to talk to you soon.
Do we have a prize or anything? If anyone wants to join, I put up a link earlier to my, if you want to sign up to get a scratch card, which I totally forgot to promote. If you do want to get a scratch card, visit that link in the chat description. I'll make sure I post it again now. And also it will ask you if you do want to meet with Andrew or myself and for a no obligation chat. So let me just load that up here.
Yeah, guys, Joe and I were so used to doing this in person. We've done these for years in person, so we're used to having the cards in our hands. That's why I didn't think of it. But this is kind of interesting too. And thank you guys again for showing up, even online.
All right, so there we go. I just put that link there for everybody. So if anyone wants to load up that, it's like a little quick 1-minute survey thing, and you can get a scratch card. Do I have some here? It's essentially a scratch card that you can get from a service station with an opportunity to win 10 grand. And hopefully maybe that can go towards your down payment today.
Good,
I'll mail that out to you if you fill that out. All right. Well, Andrew,
Okay.
do you have any comments or questions yourself?
No, absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. It's a lot of information once. I see some folks already left. In fact, one or two actually. Joe mentioned that they're interested. I'm going to talk to them tomorrow. Yeah, guys. The first thing is honestly to save yourself a lot of time and have no regrets later. Give Joe a shout. Again, there's no obligation. That's one of the cool things. And even with me, I've been working them for years, no obligation. Give him a shout and find out where you're at currently. Then, you know what? Even then, without no obligation, again, what you could do is Joe can give you the basic numbers. I don't deal with the ministerial stuff. That's all up to you guys. I keep people's information confidential. I don't even need it. As long as I have a price range, what I could do is then show you some options that are out there. And if it's actually of some interest, I'll show you what the rent is on some of those properties, or is possible on some of those properties. Then you know exactly, I can afford this. I can buy this kind of property, which actually exists and is available. And there's this kind of rent for that property that I can expect normally, you know, and then you got the whole thing kind of set up. And then all you have to do is go, okay, let's act on all three of those things. And that way, at least you know, and there's no regrets later going, okay, what you know, shoulda, woulda, coulda kind of thing. At least you know for sure, and knowing is huge.
All right, awesome. Great. Well, thanks again, Andrew. Cool. All right, well, I'll be ending this recording. Thanks again for everybody taking your time today.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and we look forward to chatting with you guys later on. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.